Welcome back to Why We Like This, the podcast that treats Florida like the active crime scene it is. I am your host, David Quinones. I'm joined by my co-host, Tomas Kennedy. Hello, Tomas.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live indeed.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
And if I'm joined by Tomas, that can only mean I'm joined by our other co-host. He's fresh back from Philadelphia, where he was dripped out head to toe in Knicks gear, and nobody said a thing because so was 95% of the audience.
MSG East, baby. MSG East. Don't save him. He said East. It's East. Don't even save him.
I don't understand the reference. What are you guys talking about?
Joel Embiid is upset because the Knicks fans took over the city of Philadelphia, and he said it feels like MSG East down here, not knowing or caring that Philadelphia is south of New York City and that the Atlantic Ocean is to the east of New York City. So a moment of athlete stupidity.
Yeah.
I don't get when the boys talk sports, so let's just move on.
It is very funny, though, because what happens, Tomas, in like plain language is that like Philadelphia is the kind of okay, so like it's an economic question where the people of New York, who are only about a 30-40 minute drive from Philadelphia, can attend a basketball playoff game in Philadelphia probably for a cheaper overall cost than going to Madison Square Garden in Manhattan.
Half the cost.
So effectively, if you're a poor Philadelphia 76er player, you show up for your home game hoping that you aren't going to get your ass kicked by the New York Knicks, and your entire home crowd is Knicks fans. So I'm trying to think of what the South American football equivalents would be, but I just can't think of. I guess like Boca Juniors going to to Cali, and all the fans are just Boca fans. I don't know, something like that.
That's not going to happen in Cali.
Okay.
I don't think so.
There would be gunplay. But hey, Philly, I mean, come on. What happened to the Philly fans? Like, their reputation. They used to not be ones to allow for that kind of shenanigans. But
like everything else, they've been inshittified. The inshittification of soccer fanhood. Hooliganism.
In fairness, they're not really a sports town. They are a sport town, that sport being football and that team being the Eagles. Yeah. That's I don't expect them to show up that way for their other teams. But anyway, let's move on to other business.
So today's story, you spent a band on a Brightline and went bankrupt with it? That's right. We're going into the rapidly deteriorating state of affairs over at what passes for public transit in Florida. Brightline, a baffling rail line, more than 10 years old, actually less than 10 years old, but that would be in a museum if it was in China. So anyway, we'll get to that. But first, we've got a plethora of news and notes to get through on the Sunshine State right here at home. Kind of sticking with that basketball conversation, Gerald. Like, if it's playoff time, and usually we're used to this time of year, we are used to very often, I think like something like 8 times in the last like 20 years, the Miami Heat, the hometown Miami Heat, have played against the hated Boston Celtics. And while we did not get that this year, in its place, we have gotten a similar Miami versus Boston flap. And this comes from Variety. Miami police officers sue Ben Affleck and Matt Damon over the Rip movie, a movie called The Rip, alleging Netflix movie caused substantial harm to their reputations. So I don't know.
So bad, by the way.
It was like one of the worst things ever. Yeah, it was a dog shit movie. I watched it. I watched it on a random afternoon. It
was like a shitty Den of Thieves, and Den of Thieves is already so bad.
Yeah, it was not bad in the good way that Den of Thieves was.
Yeah, exactly.
2 law enforcement. This is specifically 2 law enforcement officers, some guys from the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office named Jason Smith and Jonathan Santana, who are saying that the Ben Affleck and Matt Damon crooked cops, semi-crooked cops, they like go back and forth throughout the movie. I don't want to spoil The Rip for anybody who might want to go watch it. But like they're basically saying that like it's based off of a 2016 bust that they did, and they're trying to say like they're trying to say like whoa, but we're not crooked cops. And I just think it would be really funny if like it goes to Discovery and like it turns out that they are crooked cops. But because I mean they're Miami police, it's like, what are the odds? Next up, I wanted to ask if you guys have noticed on social media if like Ron DeSantis is kind of like having a moment. Are they trying to make Ron DeSantis nationally like happen again?
They're trying to make fetch happen.
They're trying to make fetch happen. But there's polling around like a Rubio DeSantis 28 ticket. There's Ron DeSantis is on like the cover of Cigar Aficionado. He's got Rick Scott doing like sneak disses on social media where he's like taking shots at Florida's unemployment rate and like a bunch of
If you want to
stuff.
be somebody, you need an op, so I get that.
Yeah. And then
I
also
mean, Laura Loomer said he's announcing for president, what was it, June 11th? And then somebody else told me the same thing yesterday, like a MAGA person.
Oh, really?
So
how do you think?
I mean, I don't believe that. I don't believe it's true, but that's Laura Loomer is floating this June 11th date that DeSantis is announcing for president.
That'd be cool.
Who the fuck knows?
I'm sure he'll get lots of support. I don't know what happens to this whole movement of theirs when it might just keep building and building or something. I mean, everybody says it'll die when the big man dies, but I don't know.
It's like the SP baby.
I go up $50,000 of the Dow at one point was over $50,000, guys. Can you believe it was over that much money? And a quick catch up with the governor who we could have had, Andrew Gillum, who is now, if he's driving on the streets of Florida, he is driving illegally because his driver's license was suspended due to failing to pay multiple school zone speeding infractions from last year, apparently. I don't know. I still say it would have been a more fun governor. He would have been a more fun governor, at least.
I think he would have been a more fun, and he would have been a better governor. Would he have been the best governor? Clearly not, but better than DeSantis.
Another thing, again, we're going to talk about Brightline today, but this could have been its own episode entirely. The Hondurasgate. I wanted to touch on that very quickly. I don't know what to say about this. That hasn't already been said, but it is pretty crazy. It's obviously with our population here in Florida, it's got direct ties. So this is from El País, the English version of El País. Hondurasgate, if you've been hiding under a rock and you don't know what it is, the alleged U.S. and Israeli interference plot to destabilize Mexico and other progressive governments across Latin America.
Wait, are we talking about this today? Because it's hilarious.
Yeah, we can dig into it. I've only read the news articles. I don't have anything like any kind of inside information, but just for the listener, a leaked audio recording points to former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, Javier Milei, and Donald Trump as attempting to create a platform to spread fake news about the administrations of Claudia Sheinbaum, Lula, and Gustavo Petro. So yeah, this is a little bit old news at this point, but we haven't talked about it.
Okay, so I think I was talking about this with the Left Reckoning guys yesterday. The funny part about this story to me is just how petty and grifty it is. Because if you actually read about it, the sums of money that are being discussed here are hilarious. Like Joe, like this disgraced former Honduran president that was pardoned by Trump at the urging of Bibi Netanyahu, apparently, who wanted to transform him into his like weird like intelligence asset in Latin America. At one point, he asked the current president of Honduras, who's also a Trump-aligned conservative, he's like, hey, can you help me like get $100,000 so I can rent an apartment in Miami so I can get this thing going? And then he's like, don't worry. I talked to Javier Milei, like, this goofball president of Argentina. It's like, he's giving us $350,000 for this. And I'm like, bro, if you're going to like take down like Claudia Sheinbaum and like the Morena political apparatus and like Petro in Colombia, who's like, candidate is like leading the polls in the upcoming Colombian presidential election, I think you're going to need a little bit more than $350,000 and a $100,000 a year apartment. Like, it just feels like the most like Miami, like
Latin American,
right aligned, just grift. Like, I think this guy's just kind of like just grift.
Smash and grab. Just a quick smash and grab job. Yeah.
And I think like he'll set up like a website, and like a TikTok but I think the story, obviously you have to like, it's sinister that the Israelis, the Argentinian far right, like Trump appears to be involved. But I think more than anything, it's just like another just grift. Like before you had, I know I'm ranting a little bit here, but like.
No, please. I think it's good context because for me, it just reminds me a lot of like, I don't know if you guys remember the whole controversy from the mid-aughts when like they were running Radio Mambi out of the Herald and like it turned out,
But that's what I'm saying. Before you would have like Voice of America, right? And all these like subsidiaries and like sub-grants and like intelligence asset aligned, like different communication networks and mediums and outlets. And now even like this, like the intelligence, like media apparatus to like undermine like left governments, that shit has been shitified. Everything is just turning shitty.
It's bare bones, brass tacks, ripped down.
Bare bones. Yeah, dude.
Like, well, okay, so like the you gotta figure out like
everything is bad.
if you're Milei and if you're Trump, whatever, you're Milei and you're Trump, you're fine. But to make a thing like this happen, you need like somebody who's like the hatchet man that's going to do it and have his name on shit. And if you're that person or one of those people and you're proposing these grifts, you got to bake in like a solid $1 million of like fuck off money where you're like, if it all falls apart, I got $1 million in my pocket where I can just get out of there. And it doesn't matter that I'm unhireable or that maybe I have to go into hiding or like whatever, I have to hire a PR crisis firm, something like that. Like whatever goes wrong inevitably, because these things are always incompetently run and they always come out. Like you got to have that money baked in. But to Tomas's point, like now it's also cheap. It's cheap and fly by night. And it's just like a conversation had amongst like an idiot and an old idiot. Like the United States and Israel, with the help of Honduras, are allegedly positioning themselves on the geopolitical chessboard to control spheres of influence in Latin America. So all of them are kind of coming together, and their idea was to just astroturf any negative information about Mexico, about Brazil, about, you know, anything coming out of Colombia or any of these, what they perceive to be like leftists or left-wing states. And this happens obviously as, you know, there's a lot of popular support in places like Mexico for new policies, universal healthcare, stuff like that, that they're at least saying that they're going to roll out. And, you know, I don't know. It's funny to see them try to play together, but I don't think that these aren't like, you don't become Donald Trump by like playing well with like your guys down in Latin America, or, you know, like this is its very definition, a whole movement that's fractured and fractious. And I don't know. It's not surprising that all this came out to me.
Moral of the story, I think it's largely just a scheme to get a free apartment in Miami and some fuck off money. We'll see how it plays out.
I pair this with the news that again today, I believe it was today or yesterday, that Donald Trump, we have another 51st state, guys, if you're keeping track. And this one now it's going to be Venezuela, according to Donald Trump yesterday. He said that Venezuela would be another good target for the 51st state. We have like 5 or 6 different 51st states at this point.
I saw that.
I don't know. There's something that they don't want to talk about because they're talking about aliens again. So aliens
I'm so sick of that shit, dude.
It's so fucking stupid. At this point, it feels like a brand exercise or something.
I don't care. I don't care.
I still got to go to work, right?
Yeah, like I don't care. Unless I'm like gonna like pilot like a mech or something, like unless like this is gonna affect my life, like I do not care if there's aliens out there.
And then the last little news and note that I wanted to talk about was right here in our backyard. We got a new piece of public art, Tomas, in Doral. Are you going to be going out to the Doral Country Club to see the Donald Trump golden statue?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that.
There's nothing to say about it, but there's one thing I did want to bring up about that, and it's doesn't have anything to do with all the obvious, you know, biblical metaphors for the Antichrist eventually coming, but it does. It's more like I was reading the Haaretz article about it, and about halfway through it says, and this is what caught my attention. It says, posting on social media after Wednesday's ceremony. They're talking about the ceremony to like unveil this hideous fucking monstrous golden calf statue that's in the front of or in the back, I should say, of the Doral Country Club and the Trump National Doral. It says, posting on social media after Wednesday's ceremony, Burns, who was one of the, you know, was the pastor that was like overseeing the ceremony, personally thanked ultra-Orthodox activists Yakov Flichkin and Hershey Friedman, who he said were among the 6,000 plus patriots who gave, prayed, supported, and made this historic moment possible. Despite Burns' personal mention of the two, the scope of their contributions remains unclear. And that's just one thing I wanted to flag is like, I think we're getting maybe a little too inured or accustomed to a lot of this money that kind of flies around Trump world, like not knowing where any of it's coming from exactly. And like, I know it's like, it's probably trite and boring at this point to try to say this, but there used to be at least the appearance of transparency, or like people would lose their jobs if you couldn't find out where money was coming from. And it was at least a scandal, or at least it was something people talked about. Now money just falls out of the air. And money just gets pulled out of Kalshi and gets dumped on all these open prediction market. There's like no expectation at all that there's transparency, or like, remember remember Kelly Loeffler? Kelly Loeffler had like the appearance of what was probably corruption. And like she paid an electoral price for it, and she paid like a big public relations price for it. For a few years at least, she was toxic, and before she got magically rehabilitated. But like that era is over with, it feels like.
Yeah, dude, she wasn't based like Trump.
Good point. And even before that, does anyone remember the Clinton Foundation? Like, does anyone remember when they had to shutter an entire organization because they didn't want even the appearance of impropriety that someone would be trading their political position for private sector favor?
Or going back to the Clintons, like the Clinton Whitewater scandal in the 90s. I mean, they weathered that, but it consumed like the second Clinton term. The Whitewater scandal was huge.
Everyone knew, even if you weren't paying attention to politics, everyone knew the term Whitewater meant Clinton's up to something. Even if you didn't know the details of the land deal in Arkansas, you at least knew Whitewater equals Clinton shady something. And now there's a Whitewater every 15 minutes.
I'm not one to like go out on a limb, riding for Joe Biden or anything like that. But I mean, I would go out on a limb and ride for Hunter a little. And Hunter, the Burisma thing got like way more criticism than all of the stuff that Eric and Don Jr. have been doing flagrantly out in the open. And like, you want to talk about just getting paid for literal access to a president or access to an administration? The amount of things that every single time you read about either the two of them or Jared, they're all just flaunting it. Check out Don Jr.'s new startup where he's selling 30-minute increments with his dad for like $1 million a half hour or some shit. And everybody's just like, oh, that's a great idea. That's a good business plan. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say it's a double standard because I know Democrats got away with it for a long time too. It just feels like people don't give a fuck anymore, I guess. I don't know. This is one last thing I wanted to show you guys. This, how we've been talking about things being spiritually Israeli? This is spiritually Floridian, and I don't know really why, but I'm going to show it to you guys. Hang on.
The Venn diagram between those two things is getting ever more circular.
Journalists ruined your reputation, not with evidence, with a narrative. And when they come for you, there's no way to fight back. Until now. Introducing Objection, the first AI tribunal. Former CIA and FBI agents will investigate. They gather evidence and make it public, permanently. The AI tribunal checks the record and renders the verdict. You can save your reputation in days, not years. From the team that bankrupted Gawker, mastermind Aaron D'Souza, comes Objection. Truth isn't what goes viral, it's verified. File an objection.
So yes, this is Objection, the new AI tool.
Wasn't there a Irish Zionism video with a Waymo trial about just exactly this thing not 2 months ago? Like this idea has already been parodied before it existed.
So yes, this is Peter Thiel's new project to basically an AI tribunal that I'm sure is very fair and will if it catches, reporting or journalism that is trying to impugn somebody's reputation, it will use its language model to determine the truth of that. And what I think the practical rollout of this is going to look like is going to be like an overlay on x.com where, if you're Ryan Grimm and you have an article about Kash Patel and this tribunal has a problem with it, this AI product takes issue with anything that was said in the reporting, it'll have some sort of like, warning label or something across social media. And it'll be like, no, don't trust this guy's reporting. This guy has been objectioned X amount of times or something like that. And like when you have Tomas Kennedy going out there writing about like stuff going on in his sphere, it'll be like, oh, don't trust that Tomas Kennedy. He's not a trustworthy. He's been objectioned.
Fair.
A lot. Yeah. A lot. We have objections about Tomas. So that's, the AI push is just continuing.
It's like AI Barrett.
Yes. Remember Barrett? Oh my God.
It's AI Barrett.
Yeah, and then there was another one, I forget, but yeah, the AI Verrit. I tried to use Verrit. I remember when it came out in 2017, when it was going to save the world, right? It was going to fix all the problems with fake news and everything.
If only they would have doubled down on it.
And then that guy, the lib, what's his name? The wasn't he like Turkish or something? And he became like a based like left winger, like a anti
Peter Dow.
Peter Dow.
Peter Dow. Yeah. I haven't thought of that name in a long time.
Wasn't he like Cornel West campaign manager?
Yes, he was.
Serious? Cornel West?
Yeah, proof that smart people are often the dumbest people on the planet.
Okay, so now on to our main topic. And the main topic, as we alluded to earlier, is the travails faced by our, once promised solution to cross state travel or through state travel, which was Florida Brightline. Tomas, maybe you could bring people up to speed a little bit on how we ended up with Brightline, which is a privately run for-profit company, mostly backed by I believe the United Arab Emirates, or no, Abu Dhabi, and their investment fund, and how we didn't end up with an actual public transit option in the state, because it goes back but more than a decade.
Well, first, you can just go and listen to our previous episode on the history of the Brightline from, I think, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
One of our first episodes, where, again, don't want to sound like an asshole, but we told you so. We literally predicted this would happen in that episode. Just go back and listen to it. Anyway, so basically, the Brightline it stems from the Obama era, high-speed rail projects that were killed by mostly, honestly, Republican states that wouldn't accept the federal funds for the project, and airline industry and other lobbying influences that didn't want high-speed rail and a train infrastructure to be developed. After train infrastructure was derailed, no pun intended, here in the Sunshine State, the Rick Scott administration pushed what, I forgot the name, but what was then the Brightline company, to basically set up this, private-public partnership to establish a transit corridor between Miami and Orlando that eventually became what we know today as the Brightline. And there was controversy around that because Rick Scott and his wife were heavily invested into this company at the same time that he was governor and pushing the project, right? So fast forward to, the 2020s. And again, the Brightline was established as a private company with partnership with all these municipalities that put in millions and millions of dollars. For example, Miami-Dade County put in, I think, $75 million just to build one train station in the city of Aventura. They let them use the Tri-Rail train rails. They just basically subsidized the whole project. But what happened? Obviously, the Bright Rail company took in massive amounts of debt. I mean, I'm talking billions of dollars worth of debt that's accumulating interest every year. They can't pay it back. Ridership is not where it needed to be. The way that they got municipalities to invest in this is obviously by bribing and donating to local elected officials, but to the public, they say, well, this could be used as commuter rail, etc. It wasn't priced at levels of commuter rail, and it's only really being priced for long distance trips from Miami to Palm Beach to Orlando, etc. So it was never feasible. And the last thing is the last mile problem. And the last mile problem is, for the listener that doesn't know, is when you arrive at a destination on public transportation, how do you get home? How do you get to where you want to be? How do you get to your transfer, for another form of transportation? And here in Miami, where there's no public transportation infrastructure that's connected, let's say that you take the Brightline from downtown to the Aventura station. Okay, well, how do you get to, the house that you want to go to, or the shop, or the stadium, in Miami Gardens, etc.? There's literally no feasible way to do so. So for most, residents of the area, of the county, what's more feasible is just to drive or take an Uber or do something like that. So again, that's why these sort of private ventures into public transportation don't work, because what you need is actual public money to do this.
To integrate the systems.
You need a master plan that's going to truly connect the city. And it can't be a venture that's for profit. Obviously, you don't want it to hemorrhage money, but public transportation is an investment that provides an economic incentive for people to move around, spend, work, etc. It's not necessarily meant to make money in and of itself, because it's generating money and quality of life in other ways. And that's what people in our city don't understand, because really they're just trying to grift off of every single infrastructure project and government project.
But I can speak to that last mile problem. Like, I mean, I don't know what your experience is with the Brightline, Tomas, but mine was, I mean, I've taken it a number of times, and it's like, it's fine. It's just like a normal train, but like it does practically, it drops you, like if you're like me and you're going to Orlando, right? I've taken the Brightline a few times to go to Orlando, and both one time I needed to go downtown to an office building in downtown Orlando, and then the other time I had to go, both like couple other times I had to go to the convention center, which is like off of I Drive. And like, it's you just add an hour and a half to your trip, because like, yeah, it might look neat and cool, and like, oh yeah, well, I get there and then I'm in Orlando, and it's like, yeah, but you gotta walk out, like, you know, go down 3-4 stories, walk under this like half planned, not put together parking lot, and just stand in a parking lot while you and everybody else that just got off the same train are all calling Ubers at the same time, you know, overwhelming the local Uber population in the middle of like Orlando. It's by the Orlando International, it's connected to the Orlando International Airport, nowhere near anything that you need to get to, which for an airport kind of works because there's shuttles and whatever. But I mean, unless you're going to take that bridge all the way over there to the airport, it just doesn't work. And the same thing in Aventura. And I happen to know that in Aventura they had a deal with Uber and Lyft for a while to you know, provide concierge service to the mall, which is usually what people are going to when they go to Aventura. They're going to the mall because Aventura is basically just a mall that happened to incorporate itself. And
like a citadel.
It's like, yeah. And like, they had that deal for a while. They had that set up where it was like, oh, well, you know, shuttles with Uber and Lyft. And then that didn't make sense. You know, there was some, you know, financial incentive that didn't make sense for that anymore. And so it just went away, right? Because whoever was sponsoring it, whoever was paying for that to be, you know, the last mile solution, you know, first of all, it didn't work great. If you ever tried it, I heard from a lot of people that it like was a pain in the ass to do. And now you have to, you know, get off at Aventura into basically walking into like a desolate construction site, which is what most of Ives Dairy Road is after like 6 o'clock. It's traffic bumper to bumper, and then it becomes like a desolate construction site.
Literally just like the worst Strode ever.
Yes.
Like just a massive, like 12-lane Strode urban planning nightmare.
Everybody gunning it to wait at a red light, like gunning it like 100 miles an hour to go 10 yards and then slam on their brakes and wait, and all trying to go to the same place, the mall over off of US 1. So yeah, it was like there was a million different ways they could have done this project. Anyway, so let's pick it up today. Here's how it stands now from this Bloomberg article that we're borrowing from. Florida's Brightline high-speed rail project is seeking options to address its debt load that avoid sending the Fortress Investment Group-backed firm into a possible bankruptcy, according to people familiar with the matter. Brightline has recently revived efforts to find third-party investors, the people said, asking not to be identified, discussing private information. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be identified either. By the way, it talks about like the fact that like when you look into who this Fortress private equity is and who's their backing, they've already got like the Mubadala Investment Company, which is the sovereign wealth firm for Abu Dhabi, and SoftBank. So they've already got like some of the dumbest money that you can get. I don't know what other dumb money they can go out there that they can like trick. Like when you have a failing, dying, wheezing, WeWork ass fucking company that is like a money hole that is failing and should probably just get a merciful bullet in its head. The only two of the only avenues that you have for cash are the Middle East sovereign wealth funds or SoftBank, famously the two dumbest money organizations out there. I don't know where else they go. Negotiations with creditors and how to handle what, as Tomas mentioned, the $5.5 billion in debt began in recent weeks.
$5 billion in debt. That is a lot of debt. Oh, just accruing interest.
Accruing interest all the time. With Brightline hiring consultants to advise it in the talks with hedge funds and municipal bond investors. If a hedge fund comes in, or if another private equity backer, one of these like 3G Capital types come in, or BlackRock come in, get ready, because it's not going to be a it's not going to be a train anymore. It's
No,
going to become a
they'll strip it in parts for parts.
Yeah.
It's like David. I was reading this. I'm like, how did they think that they were going to get $5 billion in debt at interest rates of what they are today, and that like this Orlando Miami train was going to like financially like make sense, repay that debt with the operating costs what they are. Like, am I just stupid? Like, clearly not, because this didn't work. But like, how was this? Like, I just don't understand it. I really don't.
Well, I had to dust off my own like memory.
What is the drift here? I don't get it. Like, what is going on?
I had to dust off my own memory with respect to like that whole era of like Obama high-speed rail, where everybody was, that was the one of the, and I had to like bring myself back to like the John Kasich and like fucking what's his name, your boy from Wisconsin, that what was the governor from Wisconsin that
Tony Evers.
No, the one that basically did the same thing that Rick Scott did, where he kind of like put the kibosh on it. But I was looking up all these projects because that's what Obama had kind of envisioned or like put out there or proposed, were he was going to do like a California rail, Florida, Midwest, Northeast, Texas, and Pacific Northwest. Right, that was what he was going to. These were going to be these like kind of self-contained lines that would connect or whatever. And the three was Scott Walker. Scott Walker was the other guy
who ate a ham sandwich every day. Do you guys know about that?
Yes, I remember. You always bring that up whenever we talk about Scott Walker, because it is one of the weirdest details about it.
I only know about his
ham and cheese sandwich.
Harley Davidson.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's right. But and then whenever, it's so funny, we've been doing this for so long that I have my own we have our like little things that we go to, and whenever you bring him up, I always bring up the guy from Georgia that eats a birthday cake every morning.
That's Tom Cotton.
Yeah, Tom Cotton. Yeah. Was he Georgia or Alabama? I don't know. All these
Arkansas. He's from Arkansas.
Same to me. Arkansas.
Flyover state senator.
Tomato. Okay. And I was looking into it.
Miami, baby. It's not Miami. I don't care.
Miss me with it.
Miss me with that.
Miss me with your Arkansas.
I was researching, and the only one of those projects that even came close to surviving, if you could call it survival, is the California one, which, if you guys remember, had its own sort of innovative, friction applied to it by Elon Musk, who said that he was going to create that corridor. So don't worry about it. You don't need to do it. And then it came out many years later that he was just saying that so that they wouldn't build it, so that they would not build the light rail. So that California project was originally envisioned to be LA to San Francisco, 220 miles an hour with true dedicated high-speed rail. And as of today, there is some construction happening in the Central Valley. Many billions of dollars, not really sure how much, have been spent. It has overrun on its cost, though. Initially, it was supposed to be $33 billion all in, and today it's over $100 billion in scope. So, even the projects even the project that got off the ground didn't work out. And I don't know, I guess the conspiracy mind inside me would say, Tomas, to answer your question, that like the reason that this shit doesn't work is like, and inevitably fails, is because it's designed intentionally to fail. It's to be able to point at it. And this is my big fear about the entire, whenever there's like a Mamdani project in a place like New York City, I feel like it's in this country, it's going to be just an exemplar of like, oh, see, we can't do that. It doesn't work. And like, it's intentionally set up to be that way, to be able to be pointed at later and be like, oh, look, yeah, light rail doesn't work. See, look at all the failure. Look at Brightline.
The problem is that the rest of the world can look at China and see like, oh yeah, it does work.
Yeah. We just hope that we hope that like our constituency doesn't ever click on a link from outside of the country.
No, our constituency, meaning most Americans, we're one of the most propagandized populations in the world. So a lot of them people we won't, but rest. I mean, talking about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like the global population can be like, this country is moronic and like things just can't do basic public infrastructure.
So once hailed as an alternative vision for the future of American rail travel. I remember that. This was at that height of like the public-private partnership discourses. Everybody was like, "Oh, whatever's wrong with our country, we can fix with a public-private partnership," which is just privatization. I don't know why we.
But you know what? Like in Japan, like the Shinkansen, the bullet trains, like I don't know if you know, but like those are privately owned. They're just like heavily regulated and subsidized by the government. But that is a true public, like in Argentina right now, like our bus system, which is excellent. Right now it's being dismantled by the Milei administration. But like our buses in Buenos Aires, those are privately owned. The thing is, like when you do a public-private partnership, like the public component needs to be the dominant entity, you know?
Right.
Like I believe that public transportation should generally be public, but I understand that municipalities might not necessarily want to incur all of like the operating responsibility, but they need to be sort of like the dominant administrative oversight entity. And like it can't just be a thing where we just give you the money and fuck off, you know, as a municipality, and you can do whatever you want, you know, and all of a sudden you have all these investors and all these parties and whatever. That's crazy, you know, that's not how it should work.
And even pragmatically, like would I love to live in a place where, you know, the public transit system is competently administered and upkept by the state at a, you know, at a frankly lower cost and without a profit motive built into it? Sure. But like if that happened tomorrow in Florida, I don't think like a place like Florida is not equipped. We don't have the requisite competence in public works. Like if the state of Florida had to take over, like putting out barricades instead of hiring Bob's Barricades and just cutting him a check for $1 billion every year, however much fucking whoever Bob is, he's made a shitload of money.
Raking it in.
He's raking it in. The Bobs are like generationally wealthy. But that's my point, is like if it wasn't for them, it's not like we have a government that could come in and do those things.
Literally,
government can do those things.
Anything in this, especially in the city.
Ours cannot do those things. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Our government cannot do those
exactly.
things.
Yeah. No, the Chinese government can do a lot of things.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised that like I drove on the what is it, the Renfe. I rode on the Renfe which I believe is privately owned as well in Spain just last year. It was wonderful. But it has like, I looked into it and I was like, how does this run? And it's like it's not really profitable. That's not really the point of it. There's not a bunch of people at the top who are trying to buy third or fourth, you know, vacation homes off of the profits that they make from it. And that's just never going to cut it in this country.
We can't even do, this country can't even do war anymore.
That's what that was our shit. Like we were great at that.
That was our thing.
So the company has been flailing as traffic and revenue fell far short of projections, creating a growing number of financial hurdles. Brightline has skipped interest payments on 2 different lower-ranked bonds in recent months after accumulating more than half of Brightline's corporate debt last year. Hedge funds, including Redwood Capital, Aristia Capital, and Nut Tree Capital, that's my favorite one, Nut Tree Capital, capital management, are positioned to potentially lend fresh cash in a court process, which would be a step toward taking control of the company. The people say, you're not gonna go get our big private equity loan to blow up Why Are We Like This from Nut Tree Capital.
I mean, I'll take the money.
You got to tell them like, hey, we're busting at the seams, man. We're ready to like take that next step.
Yeah.
So still, Brightline is expected to wait for other parties to make bids before exploring a Chapter 11 filing. This is less than 10 years in service. Should the company go that route, its lenders may extend bankruptcy financing and acquire Brightline through the court process. Somebody's going to acquire it. It's assets. It is like physical shit that you can buy. And that, like you said, to your point earlier, you can strip mine. And, you know, it's got employment roles, it's got, you know, real estate, it's got a lot of assets associated with it. But get ready, because whatever hellish late capitalist thing that you can imagine being erected along that line and being put up in those, I was actually surprised that
Nut Tree's gonna erect something.
Nut Tree's gonna erect all types. They're gonna be blasting, brother. But I could just picture like Whataburgers. Wait, what'd you say?
Enough about Nut Tree, no more.
But like, have you been inside any of the Brightline stations and stuff?
Taken a Brightline several times. It's a perfectly good train. It's not Japan or like a Paris, I think, quality, but like I think, yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to Japanese trains, but I think it's really good service. It's just expensive as hell. And again, unlike in Japan, where I get off of my Shinkansen, my bullet train, I can take a metro and end up within a 10 to 5 minute walk of anywhere I need to be. That's the difference with the Brightline. There's no public infrastructure, public transportation infrastructure master plan. That's the problem. And yes, I have been to the stations. I've been to the Orlando station, which leaves you at the fucking airport, and there's there's no viable public transportation option to get me to Orlando.
There isn't even shade in that parking area where the pickup area for the Uber, for the rideshare. Like, you're just standing baking in the sun.
And there's no real bus, or it's crazy. And yeah, there's like that. And I was thinking about this because I generally don't know what's going to happen to this massive Brightline station that was built in downtown Miami, with that massive food court. It's like, why do we need that? Like, why did we need to take over like 3 city blocks to build this like massive, like gaudy, fancy Brightline state? Like, was that necessary? Can you just build like a covered, like normal European style train station that's just like practical and affordable and gets the job done? But like, no, it has to be this grandiose, fancy, and luxury dining locations, and like, it's stupid, man. It's honestly,
it's such a waste of money, because I remember that the conversation at the time was like, well, it goes back to this fucking 5-letter word, man, that you keep using over and over 1,000 times in our podcast, which is grift. It was an opportunity to make fucking money because it was easy. They had a if I'm remembering this correctly, I'm not sure, but like they had looked into the feasibility of just adding another level to Government Center and just cutting it and just like plugging it into Government Center, which, for those who don't know, Government Center is a train station 3 blocks away from where they built the Brightline. They even tell you, like, if you ever like Google public transportation, how to get somewhere, it'll be like, oh, you come in through the Brightline, walk out of the front of the Brightline building, walk 3 minutes to the south, and get inside Government Station. It could have just been in Government Station, but then you wouldn't have had the opportunities for the real estate play and for the rentals and for the luxury food court and for all this bullshit that was ultimately unnecessary. Because guess what? If you want to take Brightline, you just take it anyway. If it doesn't matter if it's leaving out of Government Center or if it's leaving out of like this, these 3 blocks that they decided to take over, this tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate that they decided to burn through and dedicate to just this thing that like a couple thousand people ride every day at like more people. The least trafficked station in Manhattan gets like 100 times the traffic of this Miami station.
Oh yeah.
Which I know it's apples and oranges, but whatever.
I mean, I'm really interested to see what happened with the Brightline station in downtown, because I mean, that property alone is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, obviously.
Yeah, and it has only blown up since then, since they first signed for it. This is probably the longest that anybody has ever gone on a podcast talking about Brightline without talking about the like more than 200 people that it's run over. I just wanted to like throw that out there. It's not really germane to the story, I don't think, because from my understanding is the vast majority of those are not like, I don't think you can really sue. A lot of those were suicides. A lot of them were just.
I saw a man with my own eyes kill himself by the Publix on 36th Street and Northeast 2nd Avenue. I was in the parking lot getting on my motorcycle, and I saw a man jump in front of the train. It was insane. But yeah, it's a lot of deaths. I mean, I don't know. The problem is, again, is it the Brightline's fault? Yeah, partly. Obviously, there's also just like the fact that people in this town don't have like, I think a lot of it is the fault of people who are trying to beat the train,
Yeah, a lot of it is impetuous, unsafe driving. Yeah.
But also it is, you put a train within the middle of a lot of urban areas and residential areas without the proper infrastructure and like barriers, and like pedestrian and driver mitigation devices. And that's what you get, because everything is done half-assed, halfway. And again, without a proper master plan. When you go to like world-worthy cities, I'm talking Tokyo, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, Paris, London, like the Chinese cities like Beijing, Chongqing, Shanghai. These are places that like think through their public transportation infrastructure, how it interconnects, how its relationship to residential spaces, to pedestrians, to traffic, etc. And like that doesn't happen here. Everything is just kind of like slapped on top of each other. And the main motivation,
the easiest way possible, and that was existing like rail space. Yeah, that was like an existing corridor. That's why they just built
tri-rail.
Yeah, they just built on top of it.
They just stuck Brightline trains on the tri-rail.
Yeah, like
built some new stations, right?
Right, and like I think like I don't know what the exact percentages are, but I mean, having ridden it from end to end, because the only time I've ever ridden it was Miami to Orlando, which is the full freight. That's the full length of the line, and like I think about like 98% of it is just surface level. Like there's maybe 1 or 2% of it that's elevated. And there's like a part that kind of goes through near the coast that like kind of goes not underwater, but like lower. And but like most of it is just crosswalks. And I get it. Yes, I know people should be able to like understand that the fucking the flashing lights and the arm coming down, the 40-foot long arms coming down mean don't pull forward. I got news for you about Florida man. Specifically about Florida man. He's not great at taking advice from the environment around him. He's not got the best situational awareness, Florida man.
Listen, what did we open this podcast with on its first episode? We talked to Matt Christman about how Florida itself is an affront to God. It's an affront to its environment. It's an affront to nature. So of course, what this place has spawned is a rebellious spirit.
It's funny because
for better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. And sometimes it's like it's a very much a don't tell me what to do state. It's
don't tell me what. Don't thread on me.
Yeah, thread.
Brightline, don't thread on me. Well,
don't crush me into Jello. And I hate to be glib about this. I hate to be glib about this because, like you say, a lot of these are like not just dumbasses being dumbasses and fuck around, find out. A lot of this is mental illness or addiction or just whatever leads you down to the path to where you decide to end it. Which
100%.
Which is how many times in the last few episodes are we going to say the words late capitalism? So the company has not been found.
If the shoe fits, David.
The company has not been found at fault for any of the deaths on its tracks. It has faced at least a dozen lawsuits for deaths and injuries, according to court records, but none have gone to trial. I'm reading from a piece of reporting by the Miami Herald and WLRN called "Killer Train," which came out last year. According to court records, none have gone to trial. Some have been settled for undisclosed amounts, but I don't think that that's what's killing it. I think I see social media chatter where people are like, "Oh yeah, of course." Brightline's going under. They have to pay for all these people that it's killing. And it's like, it's probably just paying like $1 million for every person that it runs over on average. And that's not enough. When you're talking about like $5.5 billion in debt, that's not. They probably have a form you fill out at this point where it's like, was your loved one killed by Brightline? Here, just fill this out and you'll get a check for $1 million because like, let's just automate this shit and make it easier. So yeah, I don't know what the future holds. It's a huge chunk as far as like, I won't call it public, but like infrastructure goes. It is a 230-mile rail that has been like repurposed for specifically for this purpose. I don't know how much longer it runs. I do feel like in our near future, we're going to get like a lot of discourse about, oh, well, see, this is why rail doesn't work. It's going to be one of those things where it's used as a cudgel against an overall like bigger project. I know that Rick Scott won't lose out on the deal. I'm sure that another thing, going back to my thing about like the lack of transparency, I was reading just like an associated article with this, and in the list of links that I have here, I can't pull it off the top of my head, but like, did you know that nobody knows how much Rick Scott and his wife are worth? Like, I mean, the guy's been in public office.
I thought it was like 70 million or something.
No, I read a recent thing a recent article, recent vintage. It was just this year, 2026 article saying that like nobody knows how much Rick Scott and his wife are worth because of all of their like that. This guy's been in public office for like 12, 14 years at this point. It's
how much is crypto worth?
How much is it? How much is it really worth?
That Scott coin, that Rick.
We get 2 Scott coins and a Miami coin, and together you can buy
Medicare coin.
See, that's That's good old fashioned Florida way is Medicare fraud. That's how you get rich. That's how
he did it. That's how he did it. Worked for him.
All right. So at one point we lost Gerald during this conversation. So if you guys are missing your Gerald fix, don't worry, he'll be back next week. But anything else that you have to plug or talk about before we say goodbye, Tomas, as we reach the top of the hour?
No, I guess that I'll be on both Left Reckoning this week with a friend of the show, Matt Leck, talking about other Florida stuff, and also be on Billy Corbin's podcast, Because Miami. So if you didn't get enough of me,
check them out.
You can get more of us there.
Yeah, man.